Hi, this is Kiana Miner. Welcome to Crazy Courage TV, where we are busting success myths and learning how to live more courageously. Today, I'm so excited. We're going to be talking with Nick Loper. Nick is he helps people earn money outside of their day job. He is an author, an online entrepreneur, and a lifelong student in the game of business. So I think we're going to learn a lot from Nick today, and I'm excited that you're here with us.
Well, excited to be here. Hopefully, can bring some value to your listeners.
Okay, awesome. So, Nick, just so we can get to know you a little more, can you tell us about your most courageous moment?
This is okay. This is a tough one. I don't consider myself like a brave
Oh,
person,
wow.
and there's plenty of examples of not being brave. But so after college, so I was Seattle, born and raised, West Coast kid.
Oh,
Got a job
wow.
offer to move across the country. Actually, they didn't tell you where you were going to be moving to. You just knew you were going to be moving. And so it was kind of one of these roulette things, which
Okay.
was very uncharacteristic. But
Okay.
moved from Seattle to Washington, D.C. area,
Oh, awesome.
Northern Virginia area,
Okay.
right out of school. Didn't know anybody. It was a big change. It was cool.
Okay.
I was excited for the adventure of it. 3 years later, the next courageous moment was quitting that job and saying, "Hey, I'm going to be a full-time entrepreneur
Okay.
now." So we can get into that or anything else you want to talk about.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like, I would love to know what led you to deciding that you wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like, what kind of sparked that interest inside of you?
I I took this internship. They called it an internship in college.
Hmm.
That was, you're familiar with like these student house painter kind of schemes
Oh, yeah.
that are going around. Well, they get derided as being a pyramid scheme or being a scam because a lot of people burn out of them, and was maybe stubborn enough to make it through the summer.
Okay.
But I accepted this internship. Sorry, the dog is
Oh,
underneath
no,
my
it's
desk
okay.
here. The side hustle Shih Tzu is down there.
Oh, sweet.
He's got a almond butter jar that he's working on. So
Oh, that's funny. He's like, I want to be interviewed too.
yeah, come on, guys. Okay, but the painting thing. So this was my first real taste of the entrepreneurship life. 'Cause even though it was under the umbrella of this bigger company, it was still you're pretty much on your own from generating leads, doing estimates, making sales, hiring people, producing the work, dealing with customer service as it comes
Wow.
up, doing payroll, all this stuff.
So you learned a lot.
It was the most rewarding and equally the most stressful time of my life. Just
Okay.
everything that can go wrong, will go wrong when you hand a bunch of 19-year-olds a paint sprayer.
Right. Right.
Um, but it kind of, and at the end of the summer, the company posts on their like intranet, which is kind of pre-blog days, but it would be like the equivalent of the company blog.
Okay.
Sorry, college works painting ruined your life. And the essay goes on to explain, like, if you've made it this far in the summer, you're not going to be able to work a traditional job ever
Hmm.
again. You're not going to be happy answering to somebody else. You're not going to be um, happy unless you're working on your own thing. You're building your own thing.
Okay.
And at the time, didn't really think much of it,
Hmm.
but it took a while. It kind of sunk in because I took another job after graduation and just never saw myself being the person to climb the corporate ladder. I
Okay.
don't know if it was a cultural fit or what. It didn't appeal to me,
Okay.
and so that's when I got more into the side hustling stuff, the online business, the online marketing world.
Okay.
Trying to find a way out, trying to find my escape path.
Okay. Okay. I love that story, and I love how once your eyes were open to creating sort of your own thing, you couldn't go back. It's like the Matrix. Once you took the pill, yeah, you couldn't settle back into sort of like a corporate lifestyle. So yeah, I love that story. That is awesome. So you decided to do online marketing. But can you talk a little bit about some of your first websites? I mean, did you hit it right out of the park or?
The business that I started, so I started actually as a senior in college
Okay.
doing affiliate marketing from the basement of our of our house. I remember like gathering the roommates around his desktops. Everyone like had to bring their desktop into his room, trying to figure out how to do this. It was silly. But the getting started with that was a low risk way. So what I was doing was what's called direct to merchant pay per click advertising, which may or may not even still be allowed. This is like 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And so I was picking particular models of shoes. I'm barefoot now. I'm like trying to like grab an example. Um, and sending Google traffic directly to that product page on certain retailers.
Okay.
And if that customer ended up buying, the retailer would send a finder's fee, a commission my way
Oh,
for
wow.
generating that customer for them.
Okay.
And that was going okay, but it was difficult to scale because it was time intensive to keep checking all the prices and the inventory and all that nonsense.
Mhm.
So I figured the only way to really take this thing to the next level, to move it up, would be to build a website.
Okay.
And if I could have all of the sellers that had this particular model on one page, I wouldn't have to keep checking the price because it would update automatically and they would
Right.
resort and everything. And so that was the theory. And it did, some bugs in practice, but that was
Okay.
the theory. And the original website was called shoesrus.net,
Oh, cute.
and that evolved into a company called shoesniper.com, which
Okay.
had much better design, much better branding. If you go into the Wayback Machine, you can see how ugly the original version of the site was. But I ran that for a lot of years and actually just shut it down this summer as it had finally, because it played in the margin between what you could earn for selling a pair of shoes
Mhm.
and how much it cost to acquire that traffic essentially.
Okay.
And that margin got narrower and narrower and narrower, and this year finally ended up not being worth it. But
Okay.
forever grateful for the shoe business
Right.
because that was the vehicle that kind of cleared the path and opened my eyes to a lot of the online world,
Mhm.
and eventually gave me the freedom to give my 2 weeks notice.
Okay. Awesome. That's a great story, and that you broke in the shoe business. That's funny. What?
I,
Go ahead. What were you about to say?
I was like my own worst customer. I probably bought like 3 pairs of shoes over the 10 years. It's all
That's
flip
funny.
flops and barefoot around here.
That's funny. So, as you were leading up to sort of giving your weeks notice, and I know it's been a while now, if you can remember, what were you doing anything? Like, what type of self care were you doing just to build that inner courage so that you could take the leap?
So what I wanted to build up was a revenue history
Okay.
that would either cover, I can't remember if I was focused on covering our fixed expenses or if I was focused on replacing my day job income for a period of 6 months or a period of 12 months. I'm pretty, like I said, not super courageous, pretty risk averse.
Okay.
Wanted to, and probably waited longer than I needed to
Mhm.
before quitting, but it's an empowering position to be in
Right.
when you can walk into work kind of with the confidence saying, I don't need this job.
Okay.
And that shifts your entire mindset, maybe for the worse from your boss's perspective,
Right.
but that was really empowering. And then finally, it took it took a couple beers to get up the nervous to to finally quit. My boss and I were out to dinner, and
Right.
I knew it was coming. Just kind of trying to find the right time,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, this I gotta get out of here.
Right. That's funny. That's actually very similar to my story. When I gave my 2 weeks notice, I just told this story today too. I um I took my manager out to dinner, and as soon as we sat down, though, he was just like, "Okay, what's up? I know something's up." Because I probably had this look on my face, like, like nauseous, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm about to do it," or whatever. And he was
Yeah.
just like, "What's up?" And yeah, yeah, there
But
was definitely
it's so
alcohol.
freeing, isn't it? Didn't it feel amazing to
It
get that off
did.
your chest?
Yeah, it totally did. Yeah, it was like one of the best experiences ever. It really
Oh,
was.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. So you'd replaced your income before you took the leap.
Yes.
Okay. Is that
or
something you advise your listeners? Because I know you have a podcast and you've built up an audience. Is that something you advise your audience to do?
I would advise them to have a target number in mind. And it
Okay.
doesn't necessarily have to be like my full day job replacement. If you're risk averse like me, I would love to see if you had at least enough to cover, your rent or your monthly expenses before taking that leap into the unknown and then saying, "Well, Nick told me to do it." Well,
Right.
but one thing you got to keep in mind as well is now you're going to have an extra 40, 50 hours uh, a week to work on this business, to grow your business, and theoretically you ought to be able to generate a pretty good return with that if you've been able to already build it to a certain level doing it just part time. And so that should factor into your calculation, at least on a maybe 3 months out or something.
Okay. Okay. I like that. And you talked. I read your one of your ebooks, the most recent one. Sorry, it's on the tip of my tongue. Work smarter. Yes, the work
Oh
smarter is the
yes,
one
with
that.
the horribly long
Yeah.
subtitle.
Yeah, I love that one though because I was like scanning through and really into tools too. And you talk about the story of your dad, making you sharpen your pencil before doing the homework and how tools are really important to you. Could you talk a little bit more about that? How have you compiled this massive list of all of these tools? Was it trial and error that you used many of them? And I know a lot of them came from another resource, but if you can just talk about the importance of tools in running your business.
Yeah, so a lot of them are, personal favorites of mine because I like to geek out on this stuff. If there is a smarter way to get things done, and there's like the joy of discovery in finding something that's going to make me more efficient or helpful. One I just found this morning, and I've heard of it before, but had never used it before. Was called HemingwayApp.com.
Oh, okay. I'll
It's
look into
supposed to make you a better writer. So I pasted in my email newsletter. Unfortunately, I pasted it in after I'd already sent it, and it gave a couple suggestions of like, well, these sentences are hard to read, and you're using the wrong tense here. Like, oh shoot,
it.
So
Okay.
next time,
Right.
that's a cool one.
Yeah, that's very
Um,
cool.
but the book started out, and I had this idea to comb through the Entrepreneur on Fire archives, which is
Which is
a daily
massive.
podcast you may be familiar with,
Hmm.
interviewing awesome entrepreneurs every day. And at the end of the show, John asks, what's your favorite internet resource? Or he says, do you have an internet resource like an Evernote that you're absolutely in love with, in his, podcast host voice? And the answers to that's always one of, is part of the lightning round. It's always the best part of the show.
Right.
And I figured, hey, what if I could compile all of these, and I think that would be a pretty cool blog post. I'm sure that would be a viral blog post. This is me not being courageous, thinking very small, right?
Right.
And 5,000 words deep, 10,000 words deep. Like, okay, this is much bigger than just a blog post, and that's when it kind of became turned it into a book idea with
Okay.
John and Kate's blessing
Okay.
to do that, even though it was public information. It still felt a little bit weird, and then I pulled in recommendations from my network as well to round it out, and ended up being a ton of fun to put
Okay.
together and do the launch outreach and everything,
Mhm.
and I'm grateful that it's gone on to sell pretty well since then too.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I love it because I mean, the fact that you went and combed through all of the suggestions or all of the favorites is, I mean, that's massive work. That's awesome. I love that I have all of those resources in one place. So,
I used a resource called Fancy Hands to get it done. I think
mm,
they were in the book as well, I'm sure.
yeah, they probably are. Though a couple that stood out to me were Logo Garden. I'd never heard of that one, and Self Help Classics. Yeah, I didn't know about
Oh,
that one
okay.
either, so I downloaded that one on my phone. So that was
Cool.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. Okay, very cool. So I usually have questions that I ask everyone on the show. So these, just answer them the best. You don't have to think too hard about them. Just answer them with what pops into your mind. But what is your favorite book? Fiction or nonfiction?
Fiction or nonfiction? The last fiction that I've read is probably Dan Brown, and don't typically read a lot of fiction, but those
Okay.
like page turner thrillers are pretty good for me.
Okay.
Nonfiction. One that I like to refer people to is The Go-Giver by Bob
Oh, I
Burg.
like that one. Okay, very good book.
And it's very short. It's told in parable. It sounds cheesy about give freely into the world and it will all be repaid to you, but it kind of triggered a little bit of a mindset shift. So when I started the shoe company, right, it was very much how can I make money online. Well, it's all about me. How can I extract money? How can I use the internet as my ATM? And with the Go Giver and kind of over the course of the years in this business, it's like the dollars really only follow the value. And I probably stumbled into the value on accident with with the shoe comparison shopping site. But everything else, it's been kind of forefront of my mind. How can I create something that's unique? How can I create something that's going to help other people? And and it's maybe a longer timeline to seeing the return on that, but you have to do it with confidence that the dollars are going to present themselves eventually.
Okay. Yeah, I love the Go Giver too because I know coming out of corporate, I had a corporate background too, and coming out of corporate, my focus was on making money. I mean, I wanted to provide value, but I was like, okay, I have to make money. I have to eat. I have to be able to pay, my bills. And so there was such a heavy focus on money. And that was around the time that I read The Go Giver too. And it completely changed my perspective. So that's a great one. Which Dan Brown book? You said The Last Fiction. Which one was it?
Oh, his most recent one is Inferno, and the one
Oh,
before that, I forget the name of it. It's the one that was set in Washington D.C.
maybe Lost Symbol. Okay, very
That's the
awesome.
one.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Okay. What about your favorite guilty pleasure?
um, Food, anything food related. I can't stop eating. We're
Okay.
like we have so it's Christmas season, right? So we have the mint M&Ms, and it's embarrassing how fast the bag disappears.
That's funny. Yeah, my husband is obsessed with anything mint. Every Christmas season, there's this mint almond milk mess of a of a drink that comes out, and he devours that. So that's funny. I have to tell him about the mint M&M.
Don't get started. It's bad news.
Don't get him addicted. What about your favorite habit? A habit, or I'm sorry, not your favorite habit, but a habit that you've had to hardwire into your life in order to create a successful business. Something that didn't come natural to you, that you really had to work at.
One that I like to be a proponent of is something I call the experimenter's mindset.
Okay.
And I'm not really sure where I picked this up,
Hmm.
but well, actually, when I was contemplating taking this college painting internship, my girlfriend, now my wife, kind of proposed it in a different angle because it was, the company wants you to believe like, oh, you can make all this money over the course of one summer. You're going to learn, all of these great entrepreneurial skills, and it's all, rainbows and unicorns. And it's like, it sounds too good to be true.
Hmm.
What's the dark side of this? And she's like, look, if it sucks, if it turns out to be a scam or whatever, it's 3 months of your life. It's not the end of the world. And so that was one of the things that kind of triggered this. Nothing is permanent. Like the side hustle scientist or the scientist in the laboratory with the lab coat and the test tubes. He never really fails. He just kind of proves or disproves his hypothesis and then tweaks it to get to the result that he wants. And I think the risks and the decisions that we're faced with, aren't really as scary. I don't know. They're scary. They're stressful, but they're not usually life threatening, right?
Right, right. Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I remember when I wanted to quit corporate and, spend my full time working on my business. My mother said something similar to me. She was like, Kiana, it's not that big of a deal. If you don't like it, if it doesn't work out, just go back and get another job. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but if it's something that's on your heart this long, you owe it to yourself to give it a try. So I love that. The experimenters. What did you call it? The experimenters
The experimenter's mindset, and that's a
mindset.
good reminder that
Okay.
nothing is permanent. If it doesn't work,
Right.
as long as you're still living and breathing, you can go back and do something else.
That's
Try
right.
a new path and see what's going to work.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. So I know there are a lot of people in the internet marketing world or who may have an interest in the internet marketing world that say, the best time to get in would have been years ago, would have been around the time that you got in because you were able to kind of start out when it wasn't so difficult to rank a website or to make income. What do you say to that? Do you think that you can create just as prosperous of an internet marketing or online business now as you could have back then, or if you started back then?
Man, that's a loaded question. Probably, well, in a way, it is more difficult, right? There's more competition, there's more noise,
Hmm.
there's more you just competing for your attention, and it is more difficult to rank in Google as their algorithms have updated. But at the same time, it's easier in a lot of ways because with WordPress, with the tools that are out there, with the kind of globalization of different service providers, like I can't tell you the amount of dollars I've spent on Elance, on Fiverr,
Yeah.
building a site in WordPress, can take a day. Beautiful, beautiful free themes, or
And you don't have to know HTML like at all,
you
or
don't know how to do programming, you can get
yeah.
unlimited WordPress support from WP Curve for $69 a month. When I started out, it was $10,000 to have this website built. And it was just writing the deposit check for that was kind of scary.
Wow.
And there's no need to do anything like that. I mean, you can test, you can validate, you can get this stuff done for much, much cheaper. So yeah, the best time to have started, maybe was 10 years ago, but the next best time is today, because you're going to look back a year from now, wishing you started today, and you'd be a year further along.
Right, right. That's very true. Yeah, I love that answer. And I think that's true. You don't think about all the tools that are out now that just weren't available back then, like WordPress. And I think I totally take WordPress for granted, but it is an amazing platform. So, yeah.
It is, and it works so well, like 99% of the time, and it's free.
It's
And you take that for granted because I get pissed out. Like yesterday, it was like mushing all my paragraphs together when I was like toggling back between the HTML view and the regular view, and it was like stupid software. Like I've never paid a dime for this.
for this,
Like
right?
what am I complaining about?
Right. You pay for your domain name and a few plugins. But yeah, you're right. WordPress is free. So yeah, yeah, that's funny. That's awesome. So what is next for you? What is next for you in your business? What are you working on?
So I'm working on developing more more side hustle income streams.
Okay.
So I lost the shoe business earlier this year, and so what my business looks like today is a mishmash of still doing some affiliate marketing stuff and doing some through the side hustle brand and a couple other websites,
Mm-hmm.
but also doing some freelancing stuff, doing some experiments as a seller on Fiverr, doing some coaching and consulting in private mastermind group through the side hustle site, experimenting with the blog and podcast kind of monetization angles through
Okay.
there. Um, I put my first course on Udemy on how to launch a Kindle book,
Okay.
and so that was last month. I have the Kindle publishing side hustle as well. So kind of all of these things combined, and see if I can add a couple more revenue streams in there as well to piece everything together, because I'm very much ADD, and there's always some new shiny object to chase down, which could be detrimental. But I love the idea of being diversified and trying out a bunch of different things.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've heard a lot of good things about Udemy. Did you find it a pretty, seamless process getting your course on there?
They make it really easy to upload your materials. They want everyone to have kind of a consistent branding and stuff. So I was running into some issues with audio quality with like my little like cheap lavalier mic from Amazon was having like this lame like background hiss and stuff. So I found somebody on Fiverr to like remove that noise from the
Oh,
video
that's
from me, which
nice.
was awesome.
Okay, that's awesome.
So if you can get past their kind of quality guidelines, and they really recommend, uploading a test video beforehand. But the cool thing is if you don't have a built-in platform or audience, like, hey, here's 2 million students who are looking to learn stuff online, and have a proven capacity to pull out their credit card and buy stuff. So in that sense, it's a lot like Amazon.
Right.
Like it's a marketplace of buyers, which is cool if you don't have that built in platform or audience to sell to.
Okay. Okay. Very awesome. And last question is, what about what do you do on a regular basis to kind of stay stay like up, stay positive as an entrepreneur? Do you work out? Are you into self development? What type of things do you do?
Well, a couple things I'll share that maybe are a little weird. So I start every morning on my treadmill desk, which I piece together through parts on Craigslist. Because you can spend as much as you want on these things. You can spend $4,000 on the top of the line whisper quiet model that's made for professional office environments. There's one on Amazon that's the most popular seller is like $1,500,
Okay.
but mine was 250 pieced
Oh
together
wow.
from parts on Craigslist.
Okay.
I love this thing. Wish I had done it years and years ago.
Mhm.
There's like a physical inertia that you get going, like from starting your day, gets the blood flowing, gets your mind going, and I think that translates into translates into business. I don't know. It's really really good because we've all read that sitting is killing us, and
Right.
I think it's important to get some steps in, get some miles in, get the blood flowing. The other thing is I've been on a cold shower kick for the
Oh,
last
okay.
9 months or so.
Okay.
I had a guest on my podcast who was extolling the virtues of taking cold showers, and I was like, this sounds crazy. This sounds horrible.
Right.
And but I'll give it a shot. I'll
Right.
I'll do an experiment. I'll do it for 30 days, or I'll try to do it for 30 days and see what happens. But then a lot of good things started happening. I don't know. It was weird.
Okay.
And so now I'm afraid to break the streak. So I haven't touched the warm water since then, 9 months later. And
Wow. You said 9 months. You've been doing this for 9 months.
yeah,
Wow. Tell me some of the benefits. I listened to a podcast, Tim Ferriss's podcast with Tony Robbins, and that's one of his things. He talks about either dipping into a cold pool or taking a cold shower. So what are some of the benefits you've seen from it?
so yeah, call it placebo or call it whatever. But yeah,
Right.
it's a productivity hack because it's like this mindset thing. If you're like, if I can get through this, I can get through whatever else the day is going to throw at
Okay.
me.
I could see that.
And it starts out as a metabolism booster, right? Like if you can
Okay.
shock your body with this cold water, you're going to be burning some calories long after you get out to kind of heat your core back up.
Okay.
So if you're interested in weight loss, fat loss, that could be something to test out as well. But I don't know. I think it's just a mindset thing of like, hey,
Okay.
look, if this is the most difficult thing I'm going to have to do today,
Right. Right.
the rest is going to be great.
Okay, I have this thing where if I hear about something 3 times, then I just end up trying it. So we're on two, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to hear about this again. So
Yeah, you're
I
going to
think I'm
have to
gonna take the
report back and
initiative.
let me know.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a try, and we'll see how it works. So yeah, okay, awesome. So Nick, if people want to find out more about your work, if they want to connect with you, where should they go?
Best spot is sidehustlenation.com, which is a blog and a podcast talking about different part-time business ideas, ways to build income streams outside of your traditional 9 to 5 job.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And then we'll definitely provide a link to that below. So our time is almost up. Are there any last thoughts you'd like to share about side hustles or courage?
Well, the big thing that I would part with is to find your why. So if you're working on a side hustle, if you're working on something, in late into the hours of the evening, the last thing that you need is another day job. Like if it's not something that you look forward to, if it's not something that you enjoy working on, it's really not worth it. Probably for any amount of dollars if you're burning yourself out. So figure out why you're doing it and hustle on.
Okay, awesome. I love it. Hustle on. and I think joy is an important part of I mean, if you're creating a business, why not factor joy into it? So that's awesome. So thank you so much for being here, Nick.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a fun one.
Awesome, awesome. Well, and thank you everyone for joining us. This has been another crazy conversation. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and share this conversation so that it can inspire someone else. And the conversation doesn't have to end here. Head on over to crazycourage.com where I would love for you to answer the question in the comments. What are you going to do this week to experiment? What are you going to experiment with this week? Something fun, something courageous, something crazy, something you've been wanting to do for a while. What are you going to experiment with? So until next week, this is Kiana Miner wishing you much love, joy, and crazy, crazy courage. Thank you. Bye. All right. It's time to announce the winner of Fundamental Wealth Principles, the book by Clyde Anderson. This book is so amazing. Let's go ahead and select the winner. So this week's winner is Patrice Jugs. Congratulations, Patrice. I'll be getting in touch with you to send you your new book. So it's giveaway time again this week. This week we are giving away Nick's book, Work Smarter, 350 plus online resources for entrepreneurs. This book is freaking awesome. You heard me talk about it earlier in the interview. So for your chance to win the book, it's super easy. All you have to do is answer our question of the week. What are you going to experiment with this week to move you closer to your goals? Thank you so much for joining us. While you're at crazycourage.com, go ahead and sign up for our email list where you'll get training on how to be your most courageous self. Don't forget that Crazy Courage TV airs every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you soon. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it with your tribe. We'll see you next week for another courageous conversation. Until then, I wish you much love, joy, and crazy, crazy courage.